All right, good morning, everyone. Sorry for the delay. I had a few issues to fix. All right, so let's take a look at the dashboard. I've seen quite a few people completing level 1 yesterday, so that's great. Congratulations, everyone. I've also seen some people joining the bootcamp during the day, so that's great. If some of you are just joining now, you can totally do it. It's okay, even if you want to join tomorrow. And in terms of the teams, so it seems that we have one team leading the way right now, the Dolphins. So essentially your score is simply every time one member of your team completes a project, your score is increased by 1. So that's very, very simple score. And yeah, so the Dolphin are leading the way. I fixed the bug, so there was an issue, like some people were shown 2 times in the team. Now it's not the case anymore. And it doesn't matter if someone joined your team, but this person is already level 5 or 6 or 7, it doesn't increase the score. Like, it's only when you are in a team and you complete a project, then you increase the score of the team. So congratulations to the Dolphins, and the pathetic Penguins are not so bad. They are just below, so maybe they'll catch up. Okay, enough about that. So I have an issue today, so I'm not sure I'm going to put the camera because I have like I woke up with how is it called in English? When you have the eyes like very big and very red. I need to go to the pharmacy this afternoon. Anyway, so this morning we have two sessions. So the first one is about DAOs, and the second one is about Motoko and data structures. I'll start talking about DAOs. So this session is a bit different than the rest of the week. It's not too much about coding. It's more like a high-level session on why we selected DAOs for the topic of the week, and also why I am so interested by DAOs, what I believe will happen in the next few years, and how you can use that for your own personal career and journey. So this is very high level. It's not very technical. It's more like, politics and economy, businesses. And also it's very, how to say that? It's very experimental. Like, don't take everything I'm saying exactly as if it was the truth. Maybe I'm wrong. It's just my personal belief, and also a few discussions I had with people involved in Web3. So let's get started. Welcome to the decentralized era. The past 70 years, we've seen big corporations taking over the world. So if we look at industries and how we live, how we consume, how we connect, we eat food from big corporations. The food that we eat from big corporation stores. So like Walmart, if you're living in the US, if you're living in Europe, maybe Carrefour or Auchan or Pingo Doce if you're in Portugal like me. So we are buying our food from big corporation, and this food is produced usually by by agricultures that are actually funded and also supported by big corporations. So if we look at the food industry, that's already the case. If we look at how we communicate, right now I'm hosting this on Zoom. We are communicating over WhatsApp, Facebook, and TikTok, Instagram, big corporation as well. If we look at what we consume in terms of movie and books and movies and series, that's also the case that it's mainly through big corporations. We could go on. There are many examples. Telecom is also a big example, and technology in general with like Apple, Google, Microsoft. So basically, we can make the case that we are living in a world controlled, or at least partly controlled by big corporations. And it was not the case 70 years ago, or at least it was less the case. Like if we look at how people were communicating, connecting, eating, having fun, that was not necessarily the case. So what happened in the past 70 years so that we arrive at this point? And what is happening right now that I believe is actually a reverse trend. So I believe that right now we are starting a reverse trend, and the next 70 years will be about the rise of the individuals and the communities. So that's what I call the decentralized era. So I actually asked ChatGPT, why did the 70 previous years have seen such a rise of big corporation in all industries? And ChatGPT gave me a very long answer with a lot of different points. And so those were the main points that ChatGPT told me about. So the first one was globalization. Well, we are living in a world where it's much more connected than it used to be. Of course, we have connection through internet, but also through the global commerce. And so essentially, ChatGPT told me that the big corporations were able to leverage globalization. So for example, for cheaper labor, or also for using different, different laws and regulations to their advantage and moving overseas when they needed to, essentially taking the best of globalization. So they were essentially in a position to, leverage globalization. So that was the first one. The second one was capital markets, essentially explaining me that big corporations had an advantage over other organizations and individuals because they had access to capital, and capital is super important. Of course, if you want to grow and develop a business, you need capital usually. And through stocks and also the market, big corporations had access to capital, whereas it was much more complex for smaller individuals and smaller corporations to access capital. The third one was brand power. So through marketing and advertisement, some of the biggest corporations made a name for themselves, and they have a very strong brand power. So like Apple, Nike are good examples. I think that's pretty obvious. And then the fourth one was the consumer culture. So, well, this idea that the more you consume, the happier you get and the more fulfilled you are. So that's something that we're starting to see the limits, but it was, I would say, a big thing in the 70s, with the rise of like all sorts of equipments and electronics things that would make people and families happier. So big corporations took advantage of that also. The next one was super interesting because it was about technology. And so we are here to talk about technology, of course. And essentially was explaining that the research costs and the technologies that we had, there could essentially only be used by big corporations because you needed like a lot of capital and a lot of people to make advantage of the technologies that we're starting to see. And that's why only big corporations could use this technology, or at least they had an advantage using technology. And the last one was efficiency, of course, like the economy of scale. So if you are bigger, you can save cost and you can be more efficient if you have very tailored processes and everything is very, very clean, and has been repeated thousands of times. So that's why efficiency is a big thing. Now I want to look at all those points. Oh, I don't know why we don't have the two last one. I want to look at all of them and look at them from a 2024 perspective. So of course, this is gonna be just my opinion, but globalization is going on the other side. It's going like, it's less. We are living in a world that is less globalized, or at least it's globalizing less strongly than it used to be. We see like countries putting restrictions on each other and limiting some imports because they run out of some resource or they are in competition with each other. So I've seen a lot of people saying that it's the end of globalization, maybe not that much, but at least it's being reduced. So this is not true anymore. The second one, capital markets, I think is the most impressive and clear one. It's not true anymore. It's completely false anymore that it's only big corporations that have access to capital. Anyone can create a token, anyone can create a DAO, anyone can raise funds. Of course, it's not as easy. It's not, there are still some, you have to take care of regulation where you live. You have to make like a promotion of what you're building and your project, and you have to build your community and so on. But we have way more access to capital than it used to be. And that's the case for smaller projects. That's the case for individuals. How many creators and, solo entrepreneurs are raising money now? It's completely crazy compared to like, it wouldn't have been possible like 70 years ago, of course. Brand power is also an interesting one. Of course, big corporations still have those brands that everyone know about. So like Coca-Cola, Nike, Apple, everyone know about them. But it's the case now that if you look at who has the most influence on people and who has the most leverage, it's not big corporation anymore. It's actually smaller creators. So, I mean, if we look at big YouTube channels, big creator names, they usually have way more connection and way more impact on their audience. And so that's a big one, I think, that is also shifting from corporation to individuals. Consumer culture, we can debate about it, but I think it's not as interesting and as like strong as it used to be. At least people are less interested by it, and or they kind of see the limitation of it, and they see that doesn't make them happy, doesn't make them fulfilled. Of course, we still like to buy things and consume things. That's never going to go away, but I think it's not as strong as it used to be. Technology is a super interesting one because actually that's where the Web3 technologies come in, and it's a complete reverse trend. Depends on which industry we are looking at. Of course, for example, artificial intelligence is still mainly a technology that is accessible for big corporations and not so much to smaller individuals because of the processing power that you need and the infrastructure that you need. But it's changing. And also Web3 is a really good example where essentially it starts with the individual and the corporation are trying to catch up. If you look at all corporations, they are all established corporations. They are all, of course, interested by Web3 and they know the potential of it, but they have a lot of restriction and they have regulations to follow. They have more complexity to go into those industries, whereas individuals have an advantage. Like anyone can go into Web3, invest easily, learn about it, and start a smaller project. But companies that want to move into those bigger companies actually have a way harder time than smaller individuals. And I talk about that to someone that's actually worked for some of the biggest company in the world in the Web3 and blockchain departments, because they have those departments. So the person I'm talking about worked for Nike and Apple and Goldman Sachs. And essentially what I've learned is that they are super interested by those technologies, but it's much more complex for them to actually invest and start really making projects and initiatives because it completely changed how they would internally run, and also it challenges a lot of the current management system they use. Also, in terms of infrastructure, they are usually it's usually not easy to move your infrastructure to Web3. So actually, if we look at technology, at least Web3 technology, big corporations don't have an advantage here. They actually have a disadvantage. And efficiency, it's hard to be definitive about it. Of course, it depends on what you're doing. If you're trying to do quality work and personalized work, I think the individuals are always more efficient. If you're trying to do something standardized and mass scale, then yes, I think corporations and big corporations still have an advantage here. But yeah, we can see that there are quite a few things that are changing, and big corporations are being challenged. And the main thing is, the main thing for me is trustless software that redefines how we interact, how we make businesses, how we make transactions, and essentially how we make the society. So that's why I believe trustless software is a new primitive. And when I say trustless software, I mean trustless means that we have a system that we can trust. So for example, you can use Bitcoin, you can trust Bitcoin, but you don't need to have an entity or an organization that regulates it, that monitors it. It's trustless by default because it uses mathematics and cryptography and consensus. And of course, you're not not everyone is going to go into the code and check at it and verify that everything is as it's supposed to be. But in theory, you could do that, and you could verify that Bitcoin is not lying to you. And same thing with Ethereum, same thing with the internet computer. Of course, those trustless software, they always have vector of attack, or they could not be perfect in theory. It's very hard to have 100% trustless system. It doesn't matter which system it is. It's just hard, but we are getting closer to that. And once we have that, most businesses, what they're doing, and most organizations, what they're doing is essentially creating trust, or at least fixing lack of trust where they need to be. For example, we have regulation for transport industry, we have regulation for political parties, we have regulation for all sorts of industries, because we need this trust. We need, as a consumer, as a society, we need this trust. This is super important. And with trustless software, we are kind of fixing this issue by default. So trustless software cannot be corrupted. This is super cool. This is great. Usually trustless software is also accessible globally. So that's a big one. I think that will make things much faster than most people imagine. Because now if someone creates something and it just works and it applies to one country, it can be replicated in many countries. So if we think about how countries organize and how they've been organizing themselves, mostly it has been innovation from one country, at least in terms of politics and economy, hasn't been really moving to other countries. With trustless software and Web3, if we find a good way to organize a city or organize a country or a community, it can easily be replicated, and the technology can be ported away to other countries. Innovation and interoperability. So very, very simply, when you have open source code and you have blockchain technology and Web3, much more information are accessible, and much more parts of the system can be, collaborating with each other. When you have private companies, usually, of course, they have APIs, but it's not always as accessible, and it's not always as, interoperable. So I believe this is a big one. imagine that the systems in your city, like, or your country, everything is running on DIC, for example, then you are able to, connect things, try experimentation, collaborate with different parts of the system that we don't even imagine today. Transparent and auditable. Well, this one is probably the biggest one, or at least the second biggest one, because we can have a software, we can run it, and we can be sure that it's actually what we believe to be. We can be sure that this is what is running. And that solves a lot of issues with trust as well. No middleman. So think about how many people are involved when you send money from one country to another. Like how many checks, if you have already worked, or if you know some people that have worked in the banking industry, it's crazy how much people and checks are going to be involved in that transaction. And if you think about it, it's just a simple canister call. If you do that on the IC, like if you want to send money from a token to someone, it's just calling a function. Of course, maybe those systems will become more complex as we grow and we still have needs for regulation, but it's a really, really good and good thing for efficiency. And the last one, which is probably the most important actually for me, even more than transparent, it's this aspect of co-owned software. So we can have software that is owned by different people, and the different people that own it, or the different organizations, can reap the rewards out of that system. So that's very, very good for incentivizing people to use those software. So what is a DAO? Well, we already talked about it, but just want to get back to a new definition. A DAO is an organization where people collaborate using transparent rules and they leverage trustless software. It's an internet native organization. That's something I just added because that was an important fact. DAOs are, of course, digital organizations. They are born from the blockchain, and so they are born from the internet. I think I don't want to restrict the definition much more than that, because maybe like we haven't think about everything regarding DAOs. So there are people that think that every member of the DAO should be able to vote on every proposal, whatever the DAO is doing. Like if the DAO is, I don't know, a scientific organization, everyone should be able to vote on which research will be funded and which program will be pursued and everything. And there are other people that believe the opposite. Like DAOs should be run like corporation. They should have like a management system, and they should have like a more like hierarchical organization where you have people taking decision. I don't know. I think it's in the middle. I think we will. The good thing is that we can code that. So we can code and we can try things, and we can try and see what works, what doesn't work, how we can organize ourselves better, how can people build spaces and communities that make them efficient, but also like happier and fulfilled, and all sorts of things. So that's why I don't want to restrict anything. I don't believe that there is one model for like DAOs that would work for every cases, like sometimes you need very, very democratic DAOs where everyone can have a say. Sometimes you need more like leadership where someone can take the lead and take decisions without having to constantly asking other members. So it depends. But I'm super excited by DAOs because for me, it combines everything that we are doing in Web3. And it combines everything because it's the glue. It's the glue that's like glue all the other topics together. So for example, when people think about crypto, they think about tokens. For me, token is just the financial part of the DAO. So when I think token, I think it's one component of the DAO, because every DAO is going to need a token at some point if it becomes large enough, because that's the easiest way we have to say like who contributed in the past, who should be rewarded, and who should be able to take decision. It's just a measure of like how much you've been involved in a specific organization, in a specific community, how much you've helped the people in that community. And also, it's super cool because every time you have a token, you create a market and you create incentives for people to buy, to sell. And also you create like competition necessarily because you create a market. So token for me is just a part of what is a DAO. It's a big part, but it's just a part. Open source is a big one. So DAOs, I believe, are very close to the open source movements in the sense of a DAO is supposed to be a transparent organization, and you can only achieve that if your software, the software that the organization is running on, is open source, and people can, verify what's happening, where the money is going, what's happening when the DAO is running, and just making like a transparent infrastructure. Web3, of course, I will not explain this one, but pretty obvious why. Communities. So communities, I think, are the big topic of the next few years. When I say communities, I really mean just a group of people with similar interests. That's the only thing I mean, there can be many, many communities with different beliefs. And I think the internet is entering a phase where communities are going to take over. We see already like big channels and big creators and big names doing things with their community, but it's really, really shallow compared to how far it can be because we don't have the tools to organize ourselves like this. But this is like one of the biggest human need. It's to belong somewhere, to have a community or multiple communities. So this is not going away. And when people will be able to work with their community, they will do it just because it's more efficient, it's more fulfilling, and it's just a better experience of work. Finally, artificial intelligence. So DAOs are native digital organization, and they can leverage artificial intelligence. I've seen a few people working on projects where DAOs control like a specific algorithm or a specific artificial intelligence, or they essentially the DAO has a specific knowledge base that they feed into their artificial intelligence model. So it gives them like a kind of a collective intelligence. Like you can think of ChatGPT as like ChatGPT is basically a model. So like we have those models that exist, and we feed it with the entire like human knowledge. It's good, but it's not very efficient. What is more interesting, I think, in the future, what is going to happen is we feed those models with very, very specific knowledge. And so if you do that, and a DAO is going to have a very specific like set of knowledge and set of requirements, they can create kind of collective intelligence, which would be represented by those artificial intelligence. And that would make every member of the DAO more efficient. That would make like people able to help each other indirectly. So that's pretty cool. Now, I love DAO because I have this belief that even if it's not true, I want to believe that because those are new systems, if we use them in a good way, we can really, really improve the world. And it's not like I believe that we are all going to be like humans. We will always, prioritize short term. We will always prioritize ourselves. But if we have organizations that organize us better, then we can organize the world better. It's not like we are going to be better humans tomorrow. We will still like have people corrupted, and we will still have bad leaders and people trying to take advantage of the system. That's always going to be the case. But I believe a DAO world, like DAO world with quotes, has three major advantages over our current world. The first one is improve leadership. Second one is increase opportunities, and then end of corruption. So I'll explain why improve leadership. If we build DAOs such that they are transparent and like we have mechanisms where we can kind of elect, but also very quickly, if we notice something is wrong with like one of the leader, we can quickly replace them. Then we will have improved leadership. Like in a system where you are essentially forced to be transparent, and yeah, if you're forced to be transparent, I believe that you only see the people that have the best intention and the best skills also rising to the top. I believe one big problem today is that we have a system where the people that rise to the top, they need like qualities that you don't necessarily want for leaders. So I won't talk too much about that, but like in most democracies and in the Western world, I think that's what's happening, and that's why we have not the best governments. Increase opportunities is an obvious one, because DAOs are usually much more open organization than companies are, in the sense that they scale with like large communities, and people are able to contribute even in a small amount. They can contribute to DAOs. A few examples, because I'd like to be a more like specific. For example, imagine a DAO that is doing like scientific research, and they reward participants in studies for giving information with like a token. It's already something you can do, like, you know, in the real world today. There are studies with like thousands of participants, even tens of thousands. But with a DAO, you can increase that even beyond those metrics. I believe you can do that like on the internet. You can have a DAO that do that and rewards people with token for like, I don't know, monitoring their health, monitoring what they eat, monitoring their daily habits, and so on. And so you have much more metrics for your study. So that's just one example, but like, for example, for DeFi application, you are able to have many people providing liquidity. You have for raising funds, you have much more access to have much more access to investing in some DAOs. So essentially the barriers to entry to many systems drops. And so that means more opportunities for people. Also for people that live in a country where they don't necessarily have those opportunities, because of the nature of the internet, they would also have access to those opportunities now. And end of corruption, maybe I'm a bit drastic. I think we will still see corruption in some places, but well, if you have a transparent system, it's much harder to be corrupted or become corrupted. Of course, that's the theory. We'll see the practice, but that's an interesting fact. The main question that I ask myself every day, no, maybe not every day, but very often is, can DAOs become more efficient businesses than companies? So right now, it's not the case. I don't believe it's the case. We are still in the very early days, and most DAOs out there, they have been able to raise funds and create excitements around their projects, but they are not businesses in the sense that most of them, they don't really have like a they don't really have like sustainable income, and they don't have like a develop and establish business model. It's still very experimental. I like this picture, so the one that is on the screen, because it showcases differences between DAOs and companies. Of course, each DAO is different, each company is different, but it's like a characterization. So DAOs are loose, companies are tight, in the sense that DAO usually have much more chaotic organization. You can see members coming, leaving, members with like different roles. Company, it's usually very, very tight. Either you work or you don't work for the company. grassroots hierarchical. So grassroots means more like a community approach where essentially the leaders or the community members would rise, and the hierarchical would be more like you have people that are put in certain position even if they fit, like if they don't necessarily fit there. Transparent, not transparent. We've already talked about that. Open, invite only. So well, DAOs are usually much more open, like you can just join a DAO or be part of a DAO. A company usually has more screening process. And fully global, not always global, is an obvious one, even though companies now are more and more globals than they used to be. Yeah. So now the second part of this talk is about why the IC, like what is the link between DAOs and ICP? And for me, it's one sentence, one reason, but it's a very big one. It's simply because on the IC, DAOs are able to control and own software because they can own and control canisters, and you can have like your infrastructure and your full application that is controlled by a DAO. If you use Web2 infrastructure, like you use Amazon Web Services, Google Cloud, maybe Kubernetes, Google Authenticator, Google like login with big tech, and so on, you can still have a DAO that controls the token. And you can have DAOs, like you have DAOs on Ethereum and so on, but they don't control their stack. They don't control fully their stack. There's still like a team of developers that needs to pay the bills with a credit card and so on. And I think if we want to scale DAOs, you cannot, like, you need to have the DAO controlling fully its infrastructure and the software that the DAO is using. So that's why the internet computer for me, it's so important. And it's like just this simple fact alone makes it worthy for me. Yeah. So actually another thing that is not very well known, or at least people don't think about it so often, is that the internet computer is actually a DAO itself. Actually, it's the biggest DAO in the world by capital markets. If we look at it, like from a really basic valuation perspective, we can take a look at maybe CoinMarketCap. So is there like a DAO category? Yeah. Interesting. I was not sure if it was going to be like this, but actually it is. So on CoinMarketCap, so if you are not familiar with CoinMarketCap, it's a website where you can have access to all the cryptocurrency that exists, and you can see their price and their market cap. So that's what we are interested in. Sorry, because the market cap for me is the number one metric. The market cap is actually how much the whole, like if you multiply the price and the supply, how much this ecosystem or crypto is worth. And so, of course, the biggest crypto by market cap by far is Bitcoin, then Ethereum, and so on. And so it usually showcases like how important and how big the project is. And one thing that you can do on CoinMarketCap is select categories. So you have like memes, transport, IoT, Bitcoin ecosystem, like all sorts of categories. And the category I selected here is DAO token. So the projects listed here are all DAOs, and those are DAOs that have their token. And essentially, that's what I was saying. The internet computer is a DAO, and it's the biggest DAO in the world right now by market cap. So, and by far actually, because the second one is Uniswap, which is, yeah, around half the, well, a bit more than half the market cap. Why is the internet computer a DAO? Because the internet computer is a DAO managed network. So the NNS network nervous system is a governance like layer that controls the IC. It controls the IC because you can make upgrades to the system through the NNS. So like I think every month or every 2 months, the IC is upgraded with like new functionalities and new features and so on. And it goes directly through the NNS. So there is a proposal and people can vote on it. Everyone that has ICP and is involved in the governance of the network can vote on it. So essentially, that's what the IC is. It's a cloud managed by a DAO. And we can go into more details, but that's essentially what I mean. And it's like a, how to say it? It's like, yeah, that's why for me the internet computer is really like the DAO kind of place and the original DAO. Yeah, and that's about it. There are way more things we could talk about, but I prefer to keep the conversation open and not pretend like I know everything, because I don't, but I think it's a super interesting topic. I'm always happy to discuss that. I want to make more videos and share more ideas about that. I think we are just waiting for people to actually take advantage of that. Like, I want to see builders really building their DAO, having like a vision for how they want to create their community and how they want to, make an impact in the world. That's why I'm doing this bootcamp. I think what we are missing right now is just more money, more builders, and more ideas. There is just, the technology is here. The primitive like that we need are here. It's just a matter of using it and maybe showing more examples to people how they can use this technology, giving more ideas out there, talking more about it, doing more bootcamps, more hackathons, and so on. So thanks for listening to this presentation. I hope you like it. If you have any question, if you have any question, we can take that in the Q&A or in the chat. Oops. Okay, I see that there are quite a few things in the chat I've missed. Hey, John, the recordings will be uploaded on YouTube. So you already have like a few recordings that are on the YouTube channel, Motoko Bootcamp, but those are like old one. I am going to upload in a new playlist and I will share the link. Actually this afternoon. But you can already see, oops. Let me share the good screen. Can already see here, playlist, you have the DAO Adventure and the Motoko Bootcamp from December. So you can already take a look at those two playlists, and I'll share that in the chat. How do we achieve consumer protection in a DAO? Yeah, good question. Maybe like there needs to be a DAO that is specialized in that. Maybe how could we do that? Well, it would be about bringing I would say the current rules, or like one example I think would be a community that specializes in rating products, or like, yeah, for example, like there are people that are passionate about finding the best like products for cooking or cleaning that have like the less impact on nature or the less impact on your health. What if there was like a community that would specialize in that and start rating and making like content, and also making how do I say that, making classification or like certification of some products. Assuming this community like builds enough trust around them, and they build like a system where they can, go and kind of validate some products, that would be a way to have consumer protection, or at least like I like the good players. I'm not an expert of the like consumer protection industry, but yeah. Before today, my understanding was that every decision that gets made in a DAO had to be voted on, which I then saw a lot of practical issues with. Yeah, so that's why I'm doing this talk. I think most people have a misunderstanding of what I mean by DAO. So what I mean by DAO is a group of people that use trustless software to organize themselves. They can organize themselves however they want. Like, it's just a matter of coding it and finding the system that works. It's a matter of like, of course, if you want to have like maybe if you want to run a country, or I don't know, some kind of bigger community, maybe you need everyone to vote on decision for like big decision. But I don't think you need that for every decision. Otherwise, you are going to build like a very inefficient organization, a very inefficient DAO. So it's a matter of finding out what we need to vote on and what we don't need to vote on. Like, for example, I would be totally okay giving my vote to other people for like subject or topics I'm not very expert or like familiar with, or I don't really care about. So delegation would be one thing, but adding like a layer of trust on top of it, or verification, Is it a good idea to start buying ICP coin? No financial advice here. Of course, no financial advice at the bootcamp, but if you want to look, there is this website called icpcoin.com, and it lists all the coins from the ICP ecosystem. So you can see, well, yeah, it lists all the coins from this ecosystem. So like OpenChat, Dragons. So most of them, when you see like SNS, it actually comes from the SNS framework. So those are actually DAOs. And so like the token of OpenChat, for example, controls the whole OpenChat, OpenChat infrastructure, OpenChat application. So that's pretty cool. And again, I'm not here to give any advice, but if the ICP ecosystem really takes off, and I mean, this ecosystem is amazing. We have great technology, we have great community. I see no reason for the project not taking off as well. Maybe like I cannot give any advice on any individual project, but the whole ecosystem is great. How old are you, Seb, if I may ask? I'm 20. I just turned 25 last month. Seb, I cannot complete task on Gitpod since I had no access because of region. Can I complete in GitHub Playground? Oh, that's really unfortunate. Can you send me a DM with like your information and the problem you have? I still show up for 2 teams. Okay, I'll take a look at that. Thanks again for the bootcamp. It's really helpful. Well, it depends on any advice. It depends like what kind of DApp you're trying to build. We could do a video about that, maybe like giving ideas to people. I don't know what you've started, but what I like about IC, I don't know what I would build. I mean, in DeFi, there is so much to do, like in DeFi. So, oops, Bitfinity. right now the IC is kind of lacking, I see, in terms of DeFi, because we have great applications, but we don't have a lot of financial application on IC for one reason, because GIC is a asynchronous environment. So, with those canisters, like it's asynchronous. Each canister is an environment, and if one canister wants to communicate with other canisters, so other application, it has to go through asynchronous messages, so inter-canister messages. On Ethereum, it's completely different. Everything is synchronous. You have like one single thread, and everything goes through this single thread. So the entire DeFi industry has been started on Ethereum and on a synchronous environment, and it's not easy to port that on ICP. On other ecosystem, like Solana, for example, is a good example. It's really easy to bring what has been done on Ethereum because it's the same type of environments. On ICP, it's not the case, so it means we need to think differently and we need to build differently, and that takes a long time and a lot of developers, and there are so many things to do on ICP. So regarding DeFi, because we are so early, so there is this project that is releasing pretty soon. It's a Ethereum virtual machine on ICP with like really, really impressive stats and low transaction cost. So I would probably try to play around, like play with them. I don't know what they have like that is operational. If I think they have a few things operational, but not everything. And I know they organized a hackathon like a few weeks ago. So that would mean flash loans are impossible on ICP. Yes, I mean flash loans wouldn't make sense on ICP actually. What kind of dApps can we build? I see John also wants to know for hackathon. Can you talk about some successful dApps? That's a really good idea, guys. So what I think I will do is that at the end of the bootcamp, I'll make a session on Sunday on what to build on the internet computer. So I'll give some ideas and share some projects that I think are interesting and give some links and everything. But I need to prepare for that. Even if I have some ideas like on my mind right now, I think I need to prepare that to make like good content for you. Good evening and morning. I cannot complete. Okay, so I've already. So yeah, Mohamed, can you send me like a DM on Discord and we talk about it? What would be the long-term goal of ICP? You told we usually want short-term games. Yeah, at the end, actually, if you want to make a team, like if you finish the bootcamp and you like your team and you want to start making a project together, you can totally do it. I would be able to help you, and you can like create a channel on Discord and start building together. That would be great. Yeah, sorry. So what would be the long-term goal of ICP? Well, the long-term goal of ICP is to reinvent the internet. So it's a huge goal and very ambitious, but that's essentially the long-term goal of ICP. The short-term goal, I think, is really like probably it depends actually, because of course there is the whole network as a community, but each project has a different goal. For example, their goal would be to connect the Ethereum DeFi world with the ICP world. The goal of OpenChat would be to become like a #1 messaging application. Each application is going to have a different goal, but the whole goal of ICP is to rebuild the internet using blockchain. So yeah. And yeah, I hope that answers the question. That's a very ambitious goal, but it's also very exciting. Okay, I'm sorry, we are way past the hour. I was too excited about this, so spent too much time. We have to go back to the Motoko session. Looks like the project 4 is not available in main.mo of project 5. Oh, okay, I'll take a look at that. Thanks for letting me know. So I have to end this session and start the new one for the Motoko side of things. See everyone in 5 minutes.